Hello everyone and welcome to my complete Mavuika guide. Mavuika's kit has been finalized and there is a high chance it will remain the same. As we all know, Mavuika can be played as both DPS or sub-DPS. So, I will divide this video into two parts. Without any further ado, let's jump right into it, starting with her kit. After using her skill, she gets max Night Soul points. Her elemental skill has two types. On tapping the skill, a ring is formed behind her, and it stays even if you switch the character. This ring deals damage every 2 seconds by consuming Night Soul points. It lasts till her Night Soul points are consumed. That is for 12 seconds and does 6 hits in that duration. If you hold the skill, Mavuika will start riding her bike, and all her attacks will deal pyro damage. These attacks have separate multipliers tied to her elemental skill, so you don't need to level her normal attacks. You can switch between the two forms using the elemental skill. The skill has a cooldown of 15 seconds. Mavuika's elemental burst is unique. Unlike any other character, she doesn't need elemental energy. Instead, she uses fighting spirit. She can hold up to 200 fighting spirit. Fighting spirit can be obtained in various ways. Night Soul points consumed by any party members are converted to fighting spirit. Each normal attack hit of any party member gives 1.5 fighting spirit to Mavuika. When Mavuika has at least 100 fighting spirit, she can use her burst. After using the burst, Mavuika gains 10 Night Soul points and enter Night Soul blessing state. She deals a big nuke damage, one of the strongest ones in the game due to the fact that it can melt or vaporize, and she enters Crucible of Death and Life state, which lasts for 7 seconds. In this state, Mavuika will not consume any Night Soul points, and her resistance to interruption will be increased. Based on the amount of fighting spirit Mavuika had while casting her elemental burst, the damage of the nuke and her normal and charged attacks from her elemental skill state, that is, when she rides her bike, will be increased. 100 fighting spirit increases her DPS by around 40%. So, 200 fighting spirit will give around 80% increase. However, this is not easily achievable without Zelonin, who is one of the best supports for Mavuika. But try to generate as much as you can. For that, you will need Natlan supports. More about this in Team section. From her first Ascension passive, when a party member triggers Night Soul Burst, Mavuika's attack will be increased by 30% for 10 seconds. Mavuika can also be an amazing support due to her 4th Ascension passive. After using her elemental burst, for every point of fighting spirit she used will increase the damage of the current active character by 0.2% up to a maximum of 40% for 20 seconds. This buff decays over time during the 20 seconds duration until it reaches 0. For her talent priority, level her elemental burst, as it provides a massive boost, then you can level her skill. Normal attacks are not needed. For her rotation, start by using the tap version of her skill. This will deal pyro damage to apply pyro required for setups and generate fighting spirit. Then switch to your supports and do their rotation. After you are done with them, use her burst to enhance her damage and do either charged or normal attacks while riding her bike. She can do normal, charged, and plunge attack. However, we won't be using plunge attacks because her burst only buffs her normal and charged attack. Her charged attacks have higher multipliers, which becomes more noticeable in Vape or Melt teams as she can amplify these big hits. Normal attacks can be used when you pair her with sub-DPS like Yilin or Xingqiu that require normal attacks to trigger their attacks. Moving on to her weapons. Mavuika's signature, 1,000 Blazing Suns, is the best weapon for her. It has a high base attack of 741 with 11% crit rate. When using elemental skill or burst, crit damage is increased by 20% and attack is increased by 28% for 6 seconds. This has a cooldown of 10 seconds. The duration may seem low, but it can be increased by 2 seconds. After normal or charged attacks deal elemental damage. The additional duration can go up to 6 seconds. That is a total of 12 seconds. which basically lets you have 100% uptime during her DPS window. When the equipping character is in Night Soul Blessing state, the aforementioned effects are increased by 75%. This weapon is also the best for sub-DPS Mavuika, as the buff duration will not go down if the equipping character is off-field. Other 5-star options, with crit or attack like Beacon of the Reed Sea, Redhorn Stone Thresher, the Verdict, Wolf's Gravestone. The Unforged, as long as she is shielded, Fang of the Mountain King are pretty good on her. Serpent Spine is a great weapon option. To stack its passive, you just need to stay on field for 20 seconds to get the maximum stacks. In Spiral Abyss, you can easily do it by keeping Mavuika on the first slot of your team and wait for 20 seconds before starting the challenge. The stacks do not get reset even when the character's off-field. It gets reduced only when you take damage. However, it can get harder to build as you might overcap on crit rate with the Obsidian Codex set. You don't need to buy it as it is not much of an upgrade over the F2P options. R5. Mailed Flower is best F2P weapon for Melt and Vape teams. R5. Rain Slasher is a similar option but only for Vape. The craftable F2P option. R5 Tidal Shadow is the best F2P option as long as there is a healer in the team. It provides a lot of attack percent. Moving on to her artifacts. Just like any Natlan DPS, 4-piece Obsidian Codex is the best in slot. If you have Furina in the team, Marechaussee Hunter is the second best option. The other options, Gilded Reams, Crimson Witch, or 2-piece combinations of Pyro Damage, Elemental Mastery, and Attack Percent, can be used as placeholders till you get the stronger options. Mavuika has a unique system for her burst. She does not need any energy recharge. So focus on only the offensive stats. Crit, attack, and elemental mastery for Vape or Melt teams from substats. For her artifact stats, go for elemental mastery or attack percent on Sands, Pyro damage bonus goblet and crit rate, or damage on circlet. With the Obsidian Codex, use a crit damage circlet. On the Sands, elemental mastery is better in Vape or Melt teams. Attack percent is still good and can be better with big elemental master buffs or weapons that provide it. Moving on to her team comps. As I said earlier, 100 Fighting Spirit increases her DPS by around 40%. So, 200 Fighting Spirit will give around 80% increase. She needs a Natlan character in her team to efficiently generate Fighting Spirit. Even with Natlan supports, she might have trouble generating maximum Fighting Spirit. Without Natlan supports, she performs really bad as a DPS. And the best ones for that are Zilonin, Citlali, and Auroron. Pyro Traveler and Kachina are cheaper alternatives, but a much worse option. Citlali and Zilonin unlock her best team. Zilonin is the generic best support and generates the most amount of Fighting Spirit for Mavuika. Citlali enables Mavuika's Melt teams while also providing Fighting Spirit. The best alternative for Citlali is Furina, who enables Vape teams, but she performs worse than Citlali due to her long cooldowns. Auroron generates much less Fighting Spirit than them, but he is currently the best F2P option. As Auroron is Electro, there's a single best team with him, and that is Chevreuse Overload team, with another Pyro or Electro character, preferably Bennett. Pyro Traveler can be used for more Fighting Spirit generation, but not that great of an option. The general team archetype for Mavuika is a Natlan support for helping with Fighting Spirit generation. And the last two are flex slots with supports like Furina, Bennett, Kazuha, Sucrose, Rosaria, Chiori, etc. Here's chart for her DPS calculation in various different teams. Credits to HyperWebster on Jay Sternmain's Discord. This can help you get an idea for creating a team with her. Now let's move on to the sub-DPS playstyle. In this playstyle, you just use Mavuika for her E and Q. As I said earlier, she can get 6 hits in 12 seconds duration with her skill. And when her burst is ready, you can swap into her to deal nuke damage, which can be amplified with Melt or Vaporize. And with her Ascension passive, she can provide damage bonus. Her burst and skill deal similar damage, so level both of them. For her weapons, the weapon choices remain slightly similar to DPS options. The weapons that buff elemental skill or burst damage goes higher in the ranking. For artifacts, the best one is Scroll of the Hero of the Cinder City, as long as there is no other holder. Best support set of Natlan overall, and pretty good for Mavuika's personal damage too. If there is Zelonen in the team, she is a better holder for this set, and you can use an artifact set to maximize Mavuika's damage, like the Obsidian Codex. Even though you need to be on field to trigger its effect, a single trigger of this set lasts for 6 seconds, so it can be the best set for her damage. If you don't have access to the Natlan sets, for artifact stats, it remains the same as DPS artifact stats. EM is still good if you can vaporize or melt the big hit of her burst. Moving on to her teams. Since you won't be benefiting from the damage buff on her normal and charged attack, the difference between casting her burst at 100 Fighting Spirit and 200 Fighting Spirit is not that much. So sub-DPS Mavuika can also be viable in non-Natlan teams, but Natlan characters will let you use her burst faster and get more benefit from her Ascension 4 passive. In terms of damage, when compared to Xiangling, Mavuika has slightly better damage in teams that have Natlan characters. In teams without Natlan characters, Xiangling slightly pulls ahead. However, Mavuika is easier to use if you don't want to worry about energy and rely on burst. Along with some damage upgrade in teams with Natlan characters, she is also a convenience upgrade in some teams like Kinich. The problem with Xiangling was, you need to be close for her Pyronado to hit. Mavuika will solve this problem. Here's a few list of teammates that go well with Mavuika. Lastly, let's go over her constellations. In her C1, Mavuika's maximum Night Soul points are increased to 120, and she gains Fighting Spirit 25% more efficiently. This lets you remove the need of using Natlan support with DPS Mavuika. Additionally, she gains 40% attack for 8 seconds after gaining Fighting Spirit. While using Mavuika as sub-DPS, the C1 can actually become a problem as the Night Soul points increase will make her off-field damage last longer. This might mess up your rotations in teams where you don't need the extra pyro. For example, you might want to swirl an element with Kazuha, but the extra pyro messed it up. The total damage increase is around 10% for DPS Mavuika. For sub-DPS, it is a bigger upgrade, around 30%, as it will increase the number of hits and duration of her off-field damage. Mavuika's second constellation is broken and unarguably her best constellation as it provides the most upgrades. When in Night Soul Blessing state, it increases her base attack by 200 and obtains the following effects. Her off-field skill will reduce opponents' defense by 20%, increasing the team's damage by 11%. Her normal attacks and charged attacks, while she's riding her bike, and the nuke damage from her elemental burst, 60%, 90%, and 120% of her attack has increased damage respectively. This is around 35% increase to her personal damage as DPS. The third constellation increased burst level, which is a decent damage upgrade of 10%. The fourth sequence enhances her fourth ascension passive. The damage increase gained will not decay over time, and an additional 10% damage bonus will be gained. So the average damage bonus increases to 50%. Not that important, is only a stepping stone for C6. The fifth sequence increases elemental skill level, not that big of a deal. The sixth sequence lets Mavuika have her tap version of skill, that is the off-field skill, be active, alongside her on-field skill. That is, she will deal damage over time, even while riding her bike, and decreases opponents' defense by 20% and deal damage 500% of attack to nearby enemies every 3 seconds. The ring being active during her on-field state also lets you activate the 20% defense shred from her second constellation. Mavuika will also deal damage 200% of attack alongside the periodic hits from her off-field skill. And the last half of the constellation is made for exploration, a damage increase of around 30%. If you are confused between her C1 and signature weapon, I have made a video on it. Check it out. If you are going to watch this video, don't forget to check its pinned comment. And that's all for this video. Don't forget to like and share the video and subscribe for more Genshin Impact content. Thanks for watching.